Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. I'm Ty Glenn. Hope you guys are having a great Wednesday. Apologies for not getting an episode out last Friday and Monday. It was a fall break for us. I was enjoying my fall break and was unable to get an episode out. And, But we're back here on another episode of the Hockey Talk TG podcast on this Wednesday. Lots of stuff to talk about on this episode of Hockey Talk TG podcast, so make sure that you stay tuned in to the end of this episode. If this is your first time listening, checking out the podcast and whatnot, do me a favor, make sure to hit that follow button on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are with you guys every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11:30 a.m. to noon Central Time, 12:30 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure to hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date on the latest episodes of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast and the latest NHL news, teams, players, stats, and all that other good stuff on this episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So before I recap some of the games that happened on Tuesday, I just want to do this segment on the Hockey Talk TG podcast on some key takeaways from Week 1 of the 2025-26 NHL season. So Tuesday, which was yesterday, is now Week 2 of this NHL season. And this was originally supposed to be a video for the TG Hockey channel, but like I said, I was on fall break and went out of town and stuff and was unable to do an episode of my podcast. So I figured since I couldn't do it for a video on the TG Hockey channel, why not talk about this on the Hockey Talk with TG podcast? And that's what we're going to do now. So top 5 key takeaways from Week 1 of the 2025-26 NHL season. The Boston Bruins hot start. Nobody, including myself, did not expect the Bruins to be starting out this season on a good note. We expected them to have maybe a sloppy, kind of slow start to the season, but they have really done well in their first few games of the season. I was kind of impressed. And the number one reason why they've been doing well is some strong performances from the top line, and they're getting some scoring from the depth. So, for an example, David Pastrnak, he was the driving force so far, and in the so far for the Boston Bruins, and in the 3-1 win over the Washington Capitals to kick off their 2025-26 NHL season, he had a goal and 2 assists in that game. But it just hasn't been the top line for the Bruins. It's been secondary scoring from players like Marco Kastelic and Pavel Zacha. Of course, Marco Kastelic, hopefully I pronounced that last name right. He had a goal and assist for a 2-point game against the Buffalo Sabres. And Pavel Zacha also had a goal against the Sabres. It was a 3-1 win for the Bruins over the Sabres. And that balance in the lineup is really important, especially for a team that's, sort of maybe in a rebuild mode. The only reason why I say that is because the Bruins traded away Brad Marchand. They traded away Brad Marchand, Patrice Bergeron's retired, David Krejci's retired, Zdeno Chara's retired. The only good players on the team is David Pastrnak, Jeremy Swayman. So I don't know what Don Sweeney is doing. And plus they got a new head coach in Marco Sturm. So that's why I said that they're in rebuilding mode. They want to try and get back to the Bruins that they were when they dominated the Eastern Conference over the past few years. So that's why I said that they're in rebuild mode. But it doesn't look like they're in rebuild mode now that they have gotten off to this amazing start. And another reason why the Bruins have been so good of late is because of the goaltending. The goaltending has been very solid. Jeremy Swayman against the Buffalo Sabres, he made 21 saves. And in the game against the Capitals, he made 35 saves, putting on some solid goaltending performances. And Joonas Korpisalo, of course, he got the start against the Blackhawks in the Bruins home opener, which was a crazy wild game, by the way. And he held down the fort in that one. making some key time saves, especially in the third period and in overtime to help the Bruins get the win. So this Bruins team is shocking a lot of people. Another team that I probably won't get too much into depth that has gotten off to a great start lately, the Pittsburgh Penguins. We didn't expect the Pittsburgh Penguins to win game number 1 of the 2025-26 NHL season. They had a shutout win over the New York Rangers to kick off their season. And despite the 4-3 loss to the Ducks last night, the Penguins have gotten off to a solid, okay start. And the trio, Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, and Chris Letang, is going to be playing their 20th season together. So that will be something that I'm pretty sure Penguins fans will be happy to see and look forward to as, they get off to this great start early in the season. Another key takeaway from week 1 of the NHL season, the Blackhawks' new identity. Of course, they picked up their first win of the season on Monday against Utah Mammoth. It was a 3-1 win for the Blackhawks over the Mammoth, which I went to that game. It was a great game for the Blackhawks and Mammoth. Ilya Mikheyev, he scored twice in the win. Andre Burakovsky had the game-winning goal in the third period on the power play, and he also played in his 700 career NHL game. And for the Blackhawks, they had a hard time trying to close out these games before. Like, for an example, their home opener ended in a 3-2 heartbreaking loss to their original 6 rivals in the Montreal Canadiens. And then another original 6 rival, the Boston Bruins. Great game, by the way. Unfortunately, it was a 4-3 overtime loss. And then in the season opener against the back-to-back Cup champions, the Florida Panthers, they lost 4-3. So, I mean, it's not like it's an 8-2 loss, a 5-2 loss, 6-1 loss. The Blackhawks are still staying in these games, keeping these games close and intact. So it's not like they're getting blown out. They're trying to, I kind of like this new identity for the Blackhawks under new head coach Jeff Blashill, because at least they're not getting blown out, or they're trying really hard to keep these games really close and trying really hard to get the win. And they're trying to be resilient and not feel like they're the weaker ones. I mean, it's like Connor Bedard said in the overtime loss to the Bruins on last Thursday. We're not going to take any crap from these other teams. They're not going to be pushed down. They're not going to be the weaker team. They're going to stand up for each other, support one another, get into a couple of fights if they have to, just like they did in that game against Boston. And P.S. Connor Bedard didn't really say that. He didn't say crap. He said, the other word. But yeah, I kind of like this new identity from Connor Bedard and the Blackhawks. This is something that I was hoping for a long time, and they finally got it under new head coach Jeff Blashill. We didn't see any of this under Luke Richardson. We didn't see any of this under Andy Sorensen. So I'm kind of liking where this new Blackhawks team is at. And I don't think we're going to finish last. I mean, if you look at the standings so far, we are, and I know that this is way too early. I don't expect us to be a playoff team. I don't expect us to be a playoff team, by the way. But if you take a look at the standings, the Blackhawks are, let's see. Man, I just closed out the NHL app. The Blackhawks are in a playoff. They're right there in the playoff spot. You should take a look at the standings. They're only like 1 point out of a playoff spot. And I know it's way too early to be saying this. And I don't expect the Hawks to be a playoff team. But the Blackhawks are definitely improving from the seasons before. And that's one thing I like about Chicago. But yeah. But moving on from one original 6 team to another original 6 team. The New York Rangers. What is wrong with the New York Rangers? They can't seem to score at home. And with their 2-0 loss to the Edmonton Oilers, the Rangers are now the first team in NHL history to open up a season with 3 straight home shutout losses. And that's a bad side of the history to be on. Their scoreless streak at MSG, Madison Square Garden, has now spanned 180 minutes of hockey, making it the second longest home scoring drought over a season start. So it's crazy to think about. Like, the Rangers are not scoring at home. And from my perspective, they've never been worse at home, at least in terms of getting on the board. So, but it's not like they're not trying. I mean, they are generating chances, but they're not finishing them and executing them. That's what's failing them. In the game against the Oilers, the Rangers outshot the Oilers 30-22 and had more scoring chances against them with 35-17. And they cannot seem to hit the back of the net. They had multiple scoring opportunities on the power play, including a 5-on-3, but they couldn't convert on it. So the story is that they're not trying. They are trying, but they're just not executing enough. Like, you can't blame the effort, the shots, the setup, the zone, the timing. They're all there. It's the final step that's failing. The road goalies have been putting on A-plus performances. Stuart Skinner, fantastic in the Oilers game, stopping all 30 shots faced to net. Charlie Lindgren made 35 saves against the Rangers to get a shutout, including that highlight reel save. I believe it was on Mika Zibanejad in the second period. He had a highlight reel save on Mika Zibanejad. And Artis Sivasauce in his Penguins debut, he had a great performance. We didn't expect again, this goes back to my point saying we didn't expect the Penguins to win game number 1 of the season, or at least I didn't expect the Penguins to win game number 1 of the season, but they got it done. So yeah, but maybe, I don't know when the Rangers' next home game is, but maybe they'll probably get the first goal of the game. I'm pretty sure, and I think I heard Mika Zibanejad say this at the post game. He said, "I don't know if I should laugh or cry." But yeah, it's just tough not having a goal at home. And Rangers Arena, arguably one of the best arenas in hockey. Of course, number 1 is the United Center. I might be biased of saying that. I might be a little bit biased of saying that, but for me, it's the United Center, best arena in hockey. But the Rangers MSG have a great arena too. Their fans are really, really loud and electrifying. So it's tough not scoring a goal at home. But now moving on from one New York team to another, the Buffalo Sabres. They're starting the season 0-3 again. This is deja vu for the Buffalo Sabres. They have started the season 0-3-0, just like last year. And through these 3 games, they have scored only 2 goals while allowing 10 goals against. And the power play is not generated for them. They're 0-11 on the power play in the first 3 games. What is going on with Buffalo? And the Sabres, I did look this up the other day. The Sabres have not made the playoffs since 2011. I thought it was 2007, 2008. To be honest, but they have not made the playoffs since 2011. A 14-year playoff drought, which is now going to be 15-year playoff drought for the Buffalo Sabres. They have the talent, they have the core, they have the power to at least do better in the standings, but instead we're seeing the same results from Buffalo. And, of course, Captain Rasmus Dahlin said that this start was not acceptable. You even saw some fans wearing paper bags over their heads because the Sabres keep on losing. And then I saw in the Avalanche game when the Sabres took on the Avalanche, it was a 3-1 loss for the Sabres. There was a Sabres jersey thrown on the ice after the game. And also, there was some boos in the crowd. I mean, this is just unacceptable from the Sabres. I really think they have a great young talented team, and Owen Power, Rasmus Dahlin, TNT, Tage Thompson, who scored the USA World Championship game-winning goal to have Team USA win the World Championship for the first time in 92 years. So yeah, they have the talent, but they're just not winning. They're not playing winning hockey in Buffalo, and I don't know what's the problem, but if you're a Sabres fan, let me know down in the comments what needs to change for the Sabres to win some hockey games, or at least put an end to their long year playoff drought. Because I believe that they are the only team in like major sports history, so NBA, NFL, NHL, MLB, to have the longest playoff drought in major sports league history. So I don't think no other team has that, like in the NBA, NFL, NHL, MLB, that has that long year or longest playoff drought in their history. All right, one more final key takeaway from Week 1 in the NHL season. First NHL goals montage. So we saw a lot of rookies scoring their first NHL goals in Week 1 of the 2025-26 NHL season, from Matthew Schaefer to Gavin Brindley to Z Bullion to Oliver Kapanen, Ben Kendall, and more. So it kind of felt like a rookie week in Week 1, specifically for these rookies scoring their first NHL goal. You take a look at Matthew Schaefer's first NHL goal, which I thought was a really good, nifty first NHL goal for Matthew Schaefer. Of course, his first NHL goal came on a power play out of a net mouth scramble. Nobody knew what a puck was. And then you got Matthew Schaefer flying into the crease and then getting a stick on it, putting it in the back of the net to score his first NHL goal. So, again, great creative first NHL goal. Like I said, you should take a look at that replay. You should take a look at the video. Of course, Sportsnet did post this on their YouTube channel, and most definitely the NHL posted this on their YouTube channel. You should take a look at the replay. Matt, nobody knew what a puck was. The fans didn't know what a puck was, unless you were sitting behind Charlie Lindgren. Like if you were at the Islanders game and if you sat behind Charlie Lindgren, then you probably knew that the puck went into the net and stuff like that. But yeah, nobody knew what a puck was. I didn't know what a puck was when I watched this. And then you got Matthew Schaefer coming in, flying in, and then scoring his first NHL goal. Z Bullion, he also had his first NHL goal on the power play, scored from the point into the slot for his first NHL goal. Oliver Kapanen, his first NHL goal came against Toronto. It was a short and a goal. He converted on a turnover, raced in and snapped it home for his first NHL goal. So, yeah, a lot of rookies scoring their first NHL goals, and Matthew Schaefer, Z Bullion are most likely, or most definitely likely, to be candidates for the Calder Trophy this year. And Matthew Schaefer, of course, I am rooting for him. I think he's going to be a special NHL player in the coming years. He's going to be a great NHL player in the coming years. And regardless of what team you like, you should root for Matthew Schaefer. Again, he's got a bright NHL career ahead of him. And yeah, just rooting for this kid along the way, especially what he's been through over the past year or so. So with the loss of his mother and paying tribute to her at the NHL draft, he's got a bright career ahead of him. I'm rooting for this kid along the way. Along the way of this season, I'm rooting for this kid. I'm watching this kid every single game. I actually have Matthew Schaefer added on my fantasy hockey team. So let me just show you guys real quick before we move on to the game recaps. I'm going to show you guys really quick. And we're off to a 1-0 start in fantasy hockey, by the way. So, got our first win of the season last week. We're off to a 1-0 start. We look to make it 2-0. But, yeah, this is my fantasy hockey team right here. If you're watching this on YouTube, of course, I do ESPN Fantasy Hockey. I know some people do Yahoo Fantasy Hockey. Or they might even try out the new app, NHL Fantasy Stars. But, yeah, mine's is ESPN. And you can see Matthew Schaefer right there if you're watching this on YouTube. So yeah, I have him added on my fantasy hockey team. Like I said, bright NHL career ahead of him, and I'm rooting for this kid along the way. Okay, Now that the key takeaways are in the books, so I share some of my key takeaways from Week 1 of the NHL season. Let me know you guys' thoughts down in the comments below. What were some of you guys' key takeaways from Week 1 of the NHL season? What did you like? What didn't you like? What surprised you? Stuff like that. So let me know down in the comments on you guys' key takeaways from Week 1 of the NHL season. And hopefully I did a great job explaining my key takeaways from Week 1 of the NHL season, because I know I can't stutter a lot. But moving on to the game recaps from Tuesday. There were 8 games on the slate for Tuesday, but I'm only going to be recapping 4 of them. Starting with the Kraken and Canadiens. So Cole Caulfield, he scores 2 goals in the Canadiens' 5-4 overtime win over the Kraken on Tuesday. One of his goals was the game winner, 9th career overtime goal for Cole Caulfield, and he tied Ariel Joliet, hopefully I pronounced that name right, for most overtime goals in Canadian history. Cole Caulfield has scored in 4 straight Canadiens home openers, and the Habs moved to 3-1-0 of the season. Of course, 3 straight wins for the Habs for this season. Of course, after that loss to Toronto on opening night, they have now won 3 straight games. And as you guys saw, I do have Cole Caulfield on my fantasy hockey team. I actually have like 1, 2, 3, 4 Montreal Canadiens players on my fantasy hockey team. So Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, Lane Hudson, who signed an 8-year contract extension, and Ivan Demidov. Those are the only 4 Canadiens players I have on my fantasy hockey team. Yeah, great win for the Montreal Canadiens in their home opener. Before the game, they did pay a tribute to Hockey Hall of Famer and Canadiens legend Ken Dryden, who passed away earlier this season. I have his book, The Game, best hockey book of all time. I do have that book. I showed it to you guys before the season started on the Hockey Talk TG podcast. I can't remember what episode it was. I did show it to you guys already. I don't have it with me now, but I did show it to you on one of my episodes of the Hockey Talk TG podcast. I'll also post it in a community post for you guys. But yes, I do have that book, The Game, best hockey book of all time, best hockey book that I read. So, yeah. Ivan Demidov, he netted his first goal of the season with just 2 minutes and 41 seconds remaining in regulation, just seconds after the Canadiens' power play had expired, tying the game at 4 and sending it to overtime. He also earned an assist on Alex Newhook's goal, and he became the 6th teenager in Canadiens history to register a point in the home opener. So he's 19 years old. He's the 6th teenager in Canadiens history to register a point in the home opener. Kirby Dach, former Chicago Blackhawk, scored in this game for the Montreal Canadiens. And Stan Montembeault made 18 saves on 22 shots faced in net. And fun fact, 11 Canadiens players recorded at least 1 point in this game. So the Canadiens have a lot of talent and depth on their team. It's not just Cole Caulfield. It's not just Ivan Demidov. It's the Canadiens in general. Just talent from offense to defense. 11 different Canadiens players had 1 point in this win for Montreal. For the Kraken, Jared McCann scored for Seattle. This is the 3rd straight game he scored for the Kraken. Jaden Schwartz, Yanni Nyman, and Jamie Olesiak also scored for Seattle, while Joey Daccord made 17 saves on 22 shots faced in net. This was the Kraken's first loss of the season, dropping them to 2-0-1. Multiple lead changes in this game for the Canadiens, by the way. So it was a tight back-and-forth play. Of course, the Canadiens held 3 separate leads in this game, but Seattle clawed back each time, and they eventually took the lead themselves 4-3 before the Canadiens tied it up at 4 and then eventually won this game in overtime. The Canadiens continue their 3-game homestand against the Nashville Predators on Thursday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. The Kraken continue their 6-game road trip in Ottawa against the Senators Thursday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. But moving on from one Canadian team to another, the Maple Leafs. They score 7 goals in their 7-4 rout win over the Nashville Predators on Tuesday. So they moved to 2-0 of the season. They snapped their 2-game losing skid. And the Maple Leafs had multiple contributors in this game. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, John Tavares, and William Nylander each had a goal and 2 assists for a 3-point night. Matthew Knies, who I started to get on my fantasy hockey team, but somebody else took him instead, recorded 3 assists in the win. And Austin Matthews scored twice as well for the Maple Leafs, including the empty net goal to seal the deal. His first goal of the game came on a beautiful giving goal with Matthew Knies up the left side of the ice. Beautiful giving goal. Great play for Matthew Knies and Austin Matthews for Austin Matthews to score the goal past Predators goaltender Justus Annuin. Jake Mikheyev and Bobby McMahon also scored for Toronto in the win, and Caden Primieux made 26 saves in his first start in the Leafs uniform, earning his first win since November 2024 when he was on the Montreal Canadiens. Of course, he was claimed off waivers from Carolina earlier that week, and now he's playing on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Michael McCarron, Eric Kalla, Roman Josi, and Nick Perbix scored for Nashville, while Justus Annuin made 21 saves on 26 shots faced in net. Of course, Michael McCarron and Eric Kalla's goals came 44 seconds apart in the second period to tie the game up at 2. Nashville was down 2-0 to the Leafs after the first period. And then Craig Berube called the timeout. The Leafs regained their momentum, and they win it 7-4. For the Predators, it was their first regulation loss of the season, concluding a back-to-back set in Ontario with the split, so they moved to 2-1-1 of the season. And for the Predators, they will be in Montreal, continuing their 4-game Canadian road trip against the Canadiens Thursday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. The Leafs continue their 5-game homestand against the New York Rangers Thursday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. That'll be a great Original Six matchup for Thursday. We're moving on to the Golden Knights and Flames. So Jack Eichel, he scores twice. That's the Golden Knights score 4 unanswered goals to win 4-2 against the Calgary Flames on Tuesday. So Jack Eichel had the game-tying goal and the go-ahead goal. Number 1 star of the game, at least in my opinion, he was the number 1 star of that game, leading the Golden Knights to a 4-2 victory over the Flames, and they extend their point streak to 4 games. They're 2-0-2 to start the season. Tomas Hertl, he had a goal and assist for a 2-point night. Of course, Tomas Hertl's goal was the empty netter to seal the deal. Kaden Kozak also scored for Vegas, and Mitch Marner had 2 assists for the Golden Knights. And that Golden Knights team, Jack Eichel, Ivan Barbashev, Mitch Marner on the top line. Man, oh man, it's that team so fun to watch, especially with the addition of Mitch Marner on the team, playing with his 2025 NHL draft pick buddy, Jack Eichel, because both Jack Eichel and Mitch Marner were drafted in the same draft class in the 2015 NHL draft. Aiden Hill had started for Vegas, but he left in the first period due to a lower body injury, so Kier Schmid replaced him, and he stopped all 19 shots faced, securing the win. And for the Flames, Michael Backlund and Blake Coleman scored for Calgary. Of course, Michael Backlund opened the scoring for Calgary at 7:32 of the first period, assisted by Mackenzie Weegar. Blake Coleman, he had the other goal at 12 minutes and 10 seconds of the first period, giving the Flames a 2-0 lead. And Dustin Wolf made 26 saves for the Flames in the loss, which the Flames have now lost 3 straight games. So after their shootout win over their arch and division rivals, the Edmonton Oilers, on opening night for them, they have now lost 3 straight games, and they moved to 1-3-0 of the season. Their third period struggles continue as they were outscored 9-2 in third periods to start the season. But they will look to break their 3-game losing skid with a win in Utah on Wednesday when they take on the Utah Mammoth at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. The Golden Knights will start a 3-game homestand against the Bruins Thursday at 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time. But moving on to the Hurricanes and Sharks game, Brandon Bussi makes 16 saves in his NHL debut as the Hurricanes win 5-1 against the Sharks on Tuesday. Hurricanes are perfect 3-0-0 to start the season, and the win stretched Carolina's all-time win streak against San Jose to 8 straight games, dating all the way back to November of 2021. And many of Brandon Bussi's saves came in the first period and on high danger scoring chances. While Carolina, they was pressured early. They killed off 3 Sharks power plays. They had the best penalty kill in the NHL last season, and that penalty kill is certainly coming to fruition again this season. Brandon Bussi, he is a former ECHL goaltender for the Maine Mariners and became the 769th former ECHL player to reach the NHL. Prior to his call-up, he had extensive AHL experience with the Providence Bruins. Of course, that's the AHL affiliate of the Boston Bruins, posting a .915 save percentage in 111 games with the Providence Bruins. Sean Walker, William Carrier, Eric Robinson, Shane Gostisbehere, and Jackson Blake all scored for Carolina. Logan Stankoven finished the game with 2 assists. And Carolina, overall, they dominated in shot totals, outshooting San Jose 43-17 in this game. The Sharks were held scoreless in the third period and did not register a single shot in that frame. And Hurricanes head coach Rod Brindamore said that the third period was quote-unquote phenomenal, saying that Carolina didn't give up anything and was all over them. And despite taking 3 penalties in the first period, Carolina had a great penalty kill, and they had some timely saves from Brandon Bussi. Again, like I mentioned, the Hurricanes had the best penalty kill in the league last season. That's continuing to show in this season. And fun fact, Hurricanes captain Jordan Staal played his 900th NHL game with the Carolina Hurricanes, joining Ron Francis, Glenn Wesley, and Eric Staal as the only 4th player in franchise history to reach that mark. And for the Sharks, William Eklund scored the lone goal for San Jose. I took him off my fantasy hockey team. Probably shouldn't have, but yeah, I did take him off. That goal came in the second period to tie the game up at 1. That was 3 minutes and 14 seconds after Sean Walker had scored in the second period to make it 1-0 Canes. Alex Nedeljkovic, former Carolina Hurricanes netminder, finished the game with 38 saves on 43 shots faced the net. And the Sharks have now lost 3 straight games to start the season at 0-1-2 of the season. And Sharks head coach Ryan Wasowski said that, "I just didn't think we had our juice. We didn't have much energy. Didn't compete hard enough." And the Hurricanes continue their 6-game road trip in Anaheim Thursday against the Ducks at 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time. The Sharks will be in Utah to take on the Mammoth Friday at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And that Sharks and Mammoth game will air on Hulu and ESPN Plus for you to watch. Other notable games from Tuesday: Oilers shut out the Rangers 2-0. The Rangers are the first team in NHL history to be shut out in their first 3 home games to start the season. So we talked a little bit about that in our key takeaway segment at the start of this podcast. Rangers got to get it together at home. Why are they not scoring at home? Like I said, arguably have one of the best arenas in hockey. That place is always electric, but hasn't been electric in the first 3 games to start the season. The Capitals, they win 3-2 in overtime against the Lightning on Tuesday. The Caps have won 3 straight games. Jacob Chikrin scored the overtime game-winning goal. Unfortunately, Alex Ovechkin did not score in this game. He still sits at 897 career goals. He's looking to become the first player in NHL history to reach 900 in career goals. He just needs a hat trick to do it. He just needs a hat trick to do it. Could he get it done in the next Capitals game? We'll just have to see. Stars win 5-2 against their Central Division rivals, the Minnesota Wild. And the Anaheim Ducks hold off the Penguins for the 4-3 win in their home opener. Chris Kreider is certainly making an impact at Anaheim. He had the game-winning goal in the third period. He broke the tie late in the third period on the power play. All right, NHL games on the slate for today. There's only 4 NHL games on the slate for this Wednesday, starting with the Ottawa Senators taking on the Buffalo Sabres at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Can the Sabres pick up their first win of the season? We'll just have to see. And then we got the back-to-back Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers taking on Detroit Red Wings at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. That game will air on TNT and HBO Max for you guys to watch. Does John Gibson get to start tonight? Of course, when he made his Red Wings debut against Montreal on opening night for Detroit. It was a 5-1 loss for the Red Wings, and John Gibson had his debut did not turn out well that he expected or wanted to. I think he finished the game with a .8 something save percentage, but obviously not good. Not a good debut for John Gibson with the Red Wings, looking to bounce back when the Red Wings take on the Panthers tonight. And then the next game that's going to be coming on TNT after that will be my Chicago Blackhawks taking on the St. Louis Blues at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. So a little Central Division showdown on Wednesday. Man, oh man, do I miss Wednesday night hockey on NBC. Yes, and with Doc Emrick calling those games. Sometimes you had Kenny Albert in the booth, but mostly you had Doc Emrick calling those Wednesday night hockey games on NBCSN. Man, oh man, do I miss that. Those were unreal games to watch on Wednesday night. I do miss those times when Doc Emrick was calling NHL games and calling Stanley Cup final games. But yeah, those Wednesday night hockey games really used to hit. Then we got the Calgary Flames taking on Utah Mammoth at 8:30 p.m. Central Time to wrap up the night. And that's going to do it for this episode of Hockey Talk with TG Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in as always. Really do appreciate it. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe button. Make sure you follow the Hockey Talk TG Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are with you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11:30 a.m. to noon Central Time, 12:30 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure to hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can get notified when each episode of the Hockey Talk TG Podcast drops, and so you can stay up to date on the latest NHL news going around the league. Both of you guys have a great rest of your day. Keep God first as always. Be blessed. I'll see you guys on Friday for another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG Podcast. Take care.